Okay. Haha. This is fun. All right, ready?
I'm ready.
Well, a little bit of a different Petal Talk podcast episode. Today, I am the host, taking over, and Allison is the guest.
Hi.
So you've been interviewing everybody, and we thought it would be great to interview you so we can learn about Allison and your life journey and what you've been through and how you ended up in good old Florida. Yeah.
Kind of crazy. Hi, welcome to Petal Talk, where skincare meets soul care.
So we have to start.
Yes. At the beginning.
We're going to rewind all the way back to the beginning. Where were you born and did you grow up there, or were you born somewhere and then you moved early?
Yeah. So I was born in a small town outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's called Maplewood. And we lived there, myself and my mom and my dad, because my dad had just gotten out of the military. This is also like from what I've been told. I don't remember this obviously, but he had just gotten out of the military, and it was a good opportunity for him to be with his company. From my understanding, he's still with that same company, and from what my mom has told me, it was a really big shock for them because they were both living in a pretty busy town in Colorado at the time, like quite a city. And he moved her to like this farm town in Minnesota, and it was like really hard for her to adjust. And so we lived there for a while, and then my dad ended up getting an opportunity to go to South Dakota, and then we moved there, and I lived there for a long time. I lived there for, when I think of like my childhood, it's all in South Dakota. And
So growing up in South Dakota real quick, because I don't know anything about South Dakota.
It's crazy.
But like when you spent most of like your childhood there?
In Minnesota and South Dakota, yes. Because we had a lot of family in both areas. So we would do like the years in South Dakota for school, and then all breaks, all summers, every weekend off in Minnesota visiting family. There's like a lot of water. We were doing a lot of that stuff. So I look at them as pretty even time periods, because all of my like childhood memories, Minnesota, South Dakota, like for a really long time.
So who was the child Allison? What were you into? What did you like do as a kid? What were you into? Were you a good kid, or were you in trouble? I don't really remember. Let me really think. I've always been like a good kid until I was in high school. Then I was kind of bad, but I wasn't like that bad. I've always been like a rule follower. I've always been like a goody two shoes. And then that just changed like when I moved out, because I was very, very sheltered. I didn't even mention this. In South Dakota, we went to a private Christian school, and it was, which in hindsight now, obviously understanding school districts, and like, I understand that school options are very slim pickings a lot of the time. And I don't know what my parents' thought process was with that school specifically, but it was the thread of our whole life. It was very much like church all day Sunday, all day Wednesday. We had church in the morning of every school day, prayer time every class period. It was a really big deal. So I was not exposed to anything, because why would I have been? They separated the boys and girls a lot. At the time when we moved there and I transferred there, whatever year that was, I don't even know, like in elementary school. I don't know the details of my education at that time. I was a little kid. Yeah. I remember there was 3 girls in the class and the rest were boys. And it was like crazy that there was only a couple girls, and it just was like very separated and very sheltered. And my mom very, very sheltered us. We were only allowed to watch Christian movies, animated movies, only listen to Christian music. My parents never drank, cussed. I never saw them fight. Like, it was such a
not real.
Yeah. Sheltered.
Dynamic, right? And what I liked, I don't know, I always loved like dressing up, like dolls, like
a girly girl.
Yeah, like to the T. I've never once struggled, doubted, second guessed that I am a material girl, glamazon, girly girl, like all the things I've always been my whole life. And Jacob was born in South Dakota, and my brother, who I love so much, he's the best. And we just had like a really amazing, beautiful little childhood. And we, my mom stayed home, my dad worked, and we had a dog. I mean, it was like, it couldn't get any better for a while.
For a while. And then what's the next step after South Dakota? You're now how old? Where do you move to next? Because you moved a lot.
Yeah, I moved a lot. So I don't have like a ton of memories from that time of my life. I'm sure most people don't, like when like bad things happen.
I don't. Yeah. But it's funny because like Jenna knows everything. Like she remembers everything from her childhood. I don't have hardly any.
I have very slim.
Yeah.
And the ones that I do are probably just because I assume those things happen, right? Like I can assume that my brother and I played together at the house. Like, and that's like a sweet memory.
Yeah.
I remember we had like a lot of land because it was like in the middle of nowhere, like Hickville. And I remember we had like a outside playhouse, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure we'd like played in that as like little kids, but I don't remember. I like know that I'm sure we did. But I do just remember, you know, mom at home all day, dad would come home at like 6. Jacob and I were like fine. We weren't like super close as little kids, but we were just kids together. And then my parents got a divorce in 2006.
Okay.
And
you're how old are you around this time?
I had just turned 9.
Okay.
And that was challenging, not the divorce, because that was like fine. I'm like happy that happened. It was like it should have happened probably honestly earlier, the more that I found out. But the challenging part was like after all of the craziness, just with like, you know how it goes, like divorce dynamics. There's a lot that happened at that time. And my mom just wanted to do her own thing. She wanted to break free. She wanted to just do her own thing. Where we lived also was, actually I have a crazy story that I'll share that I don't talk about very often because it doesn't really matter. But that private Christian school, and I have still friends that I'm friends with from that time, and, you know, no hard feelings to anyone. But my dad had an affair, and it was a very small town, and so everyone knew,
everybody
like
knows.
Immediately.
Oh,
and I had a teacher. I think I was in the 4th or the 5th grade, and she had me come up to the front of the class and explain to everyone what adultery was, and had me tell the whole class like what my dad did. And I didn't really understand either because I was so little, but I remember saying like, my dad kissed another girl and now my mom made him leave. And then my mom got all these phone calls of these other moms being pissed, like obviously being like, why does my kid have to like, why do I have to have this conversation with my kid now? Why is your daughter telling all these people that? And I didn't know. And the teacher knew. I don't know the details of that, but I do remember very vividly being at the classroom being like, yeah, my dad's not going to be here anymore. Like he's going to live somewhere else. And it was like really crazy. And so after that, you know, running into people at the grocery store, at wherever, like it just was no longer like a welcoming environment for myself, my mom, and my brother. And so my mom, I can tell you more about that off camera later. But my mom made the decision to move to Colorado. Which is where her family lived, which is where she was from. She was born and raised in Colorado Springs. And so I was in middle school. I don't remember. I think it was in the 7th grade. I don't remember. And it was halfway through the school year. My mom had a really hard time after their divorce, which I think is like normal.
Yeah.
And And that's kind of when life just like changed, and like I just took over and things were just like different. And she stayed in South Dakota for a little bit longer, and then we actually lived with my uncle, my brother and I, for a few weeks, months, I don't know exactly how long, and went to school. And then it was weird because I went to a public school.
That's what I was about to ask. So your transition though from South Dakota and Minnesota to Colorado was more so to you coming out of being sheltered. Mm-hmm. So you're exposed to the real world.
Yeah.
Public schools.
You know, like my first or second day of school, I heard someone say fuck, and I started crying. I couldn't even handle it. I was like floored that they would even say that. I was like eating my lunch in the bathroom, like so stereotypical. It was also the first time that we didn't really have strict dress. And I wore like the most god-awful outfit. And I still remember it was like a white long sleeve with like a black cropped vest. And everyone was so mean to me. And it was like crazy.
So you weren't really you weren't accepted into the crowds at that time? Were you kind of
I was definitely not by the girls, but the boys were like, we have like a new girl in the group. Like they're so excited. And they're in middle school, so it's like exciting. And then that obviously doesn't make girls like you, because there's this weirdness. And I didn't know at the time either that I thought it was normal to move around a lot, because I had already moved 3 times now and I was in middle school, and that was kind of a lot. But I moved that group of kids that I ended up graduating with. A lot of them had gone to school with each other since like elementary school, like kindergarten, first grade. And they had these relationships that were kind of like so deep, even at that age, that I just didn't fit in. I didn't even care, because I was so shocked. I like couldn't even care about any of that stuff. And then I went to high school, and high school was great. For the most part, it was like fine. I think at the time I would have said that I had a bad high school experience, but when I look back at it, I think it was just fine. I was a cheerleader. I managed a baseball team. I played tennis and wanted to go to fashion school. That's all I cared about. And
so the fashion beauty thing, that was already in your scope.
Yeah, kind of. I always knew that I wanted to do something girly, whether that was interior design, fashion, beauty. It was kind of always fashion my whole life, just because I think when you go through like really crazy stuff as a kid, you grasp onto like the things that you can control. And that was always like my outfit. Yeah. And when you lived in South Dakota, it's so freezing cold all the time that you always had to get really creative with like that, because you had to wear like your snow pants like to school, or you had to bring like your snow pants and your snow gear to school because it was like frigid. And the fight in our house always was like, you're going to be cold, so don't wear that. You're going to be cold. And I'd be like, I get to wear whatever I want. Like, leave me alone. I always felt like that kind of my whole growing up. And then when I was in high school, I was not good at school, like at all. And I just could not have cared less. I was dealing with a lot personally. I could not have cared less about school because I had so many other things going on with my family and just like with my own life, that my grades just, I did not care. I had this like boyfriend at the time who was older than me, and it was like way more fun to go hang out with him and his friends. He had like off periods, so obviously I would ditch school, so go hang out with him, whatever. But I still was like a relatively good kid, excluding I just could not have cared less about school. But I still like, I was never like lying, I was never like being crazy, but I just like hated school so much. I failed math lots of times. It was like horrible. I was so embarrassed. I was in a remedial math class my senior year, and I lied. I don't know if anyone from high school watches this, I doubt it, but maybe they do. I told everyone, I was like, it's so crazy, they like messed up my schedule, like I have no idea why this happened, knowing damn well that I was in that remedial math class, because I had failed so many math classes prior that if I did not pass that, I would not be graduating from high school. And all my friends were like, that's so weird. I'm like, yeah, the guidance counselors must hate me. And I'm like, no, they're doing me a favor, bitch. Like, shut up.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah. And then the beauty influence, my mom was in the beauty industry kind of my whole life. And so
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
And real quick, hold on one second. Because I just want to make sure. I thought I heard something, but we're going to stay on the beauty school. Okay, we're still good. I thought I heard it.
You're fine.
Okay, so your mom was...
Yeah. My mom has done massage my whole life. She...
okay.
So she has like a bit of a different story. She was really Miss Independent when she was young. She moved out really early, bought a house really early. She's always had like 3 or 4 jobs. Got her massage certification because she wanted to do it on the side because she was working as an accountant for a big hospital. And that was like what she wanted to do. She always wanted to have a creative outlet and then like a really pays the bills outlet, but she's always had a lot of jobs and always did her own thing. And she always really instilled that in us too, growing up, always having her own thing and having options and not letting your circumstances like affect you financially and like always just making sure that you're covered. And when my parents got a divorce, it kind of bit her in the ass because she was staying home for a couple of years and she was not working. And so then when he left, she was like on her own. She wasn't working. And so she picked up doing massage again. She did it in our house for a while and then she would do it at different like facilities. But always did it and always thought it was so fun. But hers was a lot more medical focused rather than like relaxation.
Luxury, relaxing.
And so I knew that was something that she wanted or that's something that she did and she enjoyed. But she also like loves numbers and is like so smart like that. And also loved accounting and loved math. I don't even know how we...
Back to the school though, real quick before we go. Did you you passed through high school?
Yeah.
Obviously,
like,
right?
Like
barely?
Literally barely.
Got you. But you never got held back or failed any?
No.
Okay.
I did not. No.
Okay.
God, because that would have been so bad. Like I would not have done well in that situation. I don't know what I would. I probably would have just done it online. But it was like close, specifically in the math world.
Is so, yeah.
It was like really bad. It really held me up a lot.
And then your interest in beauty though, but are you knowing that you got to pass high school because you're going to want to go to college or did you have any desire for college?
I'm thinking it doesn't even matter anyway because I'm going to go to fashion school and they don't care.
They don't care. Got you.
It doesn't matter. Beauty school was not on my radar, not even 1 ounce.
Fashion school was not beauty. School. Yep. Okay.
So I graduated from high school and actually, like when you're a senior, you spend like your whole second semester like applying for schools and stuff. And I only applied to one because I only wanted to go to one and I didn't care about anyone else. I applied. Everything was fine. And then it was in California and I have an aunt that lives there. And I was like, perfect, I can stay with her. We went out and visited. Everything was like totally fine. And that was going to be my path. Like I was so excited. It didn't matter. All that other like school stuff didn't matter because those schools, tech schools, trade schools, they understand that a lot of their, student body is going to those schools because they're not proficient in other parts of it, right? Like a lot of trade schools those people don't do great in high school. A lot of, like even, I wouldn't call it like fashion school necessarily a trade school, but, I guess it kind of is. That was not even a big deal. It didn't come up at all. And I was like, great, you're not going to ask, so I'm not going to ask, whatever. So I have fashion school ready to go. I'm so excited. And then my mom, she at the time was doing accounting for this nonprofit organization and doing massage. So she was working both jobs pretty much my whole life. She had to pay for 2 kids all by herself. And that organization every 2 years would do a big international trip because it was an international company that would help students coming to the U.S. for education. It was really cool. I don't know if I should say. It's called International Students Incorporated.
I don't know if I should say. Here they are.
Yeah. It's a really cool place. I don't know if it I don't know. Whatever. It's not a big deal. It's a really cool organization.
Yeah.
And she worked there for a really long time. Loved it so much. They, every 2 years, would have these conferences in different areas that they served, and one of them was in India. And my mom was going to go. She was going to, every certain amount of staff gets to go every year. And my mom got selected to go to India. And she was like, I really want you to go with me. And I had gone with her and done like a humanitarian trip to Mexico once prior. And I was like, I don't really know if I want to go. And she's like, I think this would be a good opportunity. We were gone for a long time. We were gone like a lot of the summer. The summer before I'm going to college, like everyone is like having fun and partying, whatever. And I was like, okay, I'll go. And we went, and it like totally changed my life. Like I am like forever changed after that experience. I saw people in the craziest situations, so happy, so fulfilled, so full of joy. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what I want to do. I want to do full-time, like volunteer. I want to join the Peace Corps. This is like what I want to do. I was like so serious.
So it really impacted you.
For my whole life.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, I don't think you want to do that because you're not going to make a lot of money, A, and you have to like be boots on the ground, like helping these people, and it's not glamorous and it's not a thanked job, and I don't think this is actually what you want. And I'm like, no, like it absolutely is. And we kind of went back and forth, and when I came back, I just felt like a totally changed person, and the idea of going to fashion school seemed so surface level. Like, how could I spend my whole life caring about something as like light as fashion when there's people in the world who are like not okay.
Yeah, they
like,
don't have anything.
No, like, and I want to just go to fashion school. Like, there's no way. And so I was like, I'm not going. I don't want to do this. Like, I seriously want to pursue like humanitarian work and like missionary work and like really like taking care of people, and like that's what I want to do. And my mom, because she like knows better, she's like, again, I really think you should think about it, because I don't think that is actually what you want to do. But the caveat was, but you can no longer stay in my house.
Oh.
Unless you're going to figure out what you're going to do, because I was doing nothing. And I was like, oh, I graduated. I was a lot younger. I was 17 when I graduated. And I was like, oh, it's going to be like that. Okay. Well, shoot, yeah. I don't know what I'm doing. And then I was at a crossroads of, I don't know what I want to do. I'm on a time crunch. I have no money. I have no ambition. I don't know. Like, I literally do not know. I felt so overwhelmed because at this point now, it was the end of summer. All my friends were already gone. And I wasn't. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. I enrolled in community college because that's what you do. And my mom said that she would let me stay at the house if I enrolled in community college. And I said, okay. And I did it for 2 days, and it was horrible. Like, so horrible. And I was in class with all these girls I went to high school with, and they were so rude and nasty, and were like making all these comments about how they were like, can you believe she's in here? Like, whatever. Because all I ever talked about was moving to California, like getting away from this small town in Colorado. All I ever talked about was, this will not be me. You guys have lived here your whole lives. You're going to stay here your whole life, and that will not be me.
And here you are.
Mark my words. Right. Like, get me out of here, dude. Yeah. But then there I was 2 months later, and they're like, whatever. And then,
don't you think that's real quick, because
tell me.
It just makes me think, but don't you think that's so unfair though at that age to always be so forced? Hard. Like, you have to know what you're going to do.
It's so hard.
Because that's the one thing I've disagreed with, and I've always had a problem with, is like, you're not going to know.
No.
And then that's why so many people end up getting trapped in a place in life that they don't want to be, or they don't love.
Right.
Is, I've always tried to be patient with my kids, and like, dude, you might not know what you want to do till you're in your mid-20s or even possibly 30.
Right.
But it just, that type of pressure on so 17 and 18-year-old kids to be like, what are you going to do? Right. And you need to know now, because you need to pay all of this money to go figure that out right now. And it's like, you're just forced. Right. It's crazy.
And especially when you don't know, then you're wasting money, you're wasting time.
Yeah.
And it's so unfair.
You're wasting so much time in your life too, at a critical age.
Yes. And that for me was so hard, because my mom knew what she wanted to do so young, and I kind of didn't. And all my friends were in like nursing, or they went to the Air Force, because at the place that I lived was like a big military town. There were nurses in the Air Force and doing all these things. And I'm like, I've never been more lost in my whole life. This is what I do now. I need to do something creative, because I can't do anything not. I just can't.
Yeah.
And I want to do something that can help people, because that's actually all I care about. I don't know what that looks like, but something that has those two, let's figure it out. And so I'm on my phone and I'm sitting outside of the guidance counselor's office, like about to withdraw my paperwork for my 2 days.
After 2 days.
Yeah, because I just can't. Yeah. And I remember going home to my mom and telling her, like, Mom, I like actually think I would kill myself if I have to keep going here. Like, it's like, I'm not, this is like level 10 serious. I'm not kidding. This is like really bad. And she, love her so much, didn't have like a ton of sympathy for me because one thing about my mom is she is not the most, she's a pusher. She's going to like push you to figure it out.
She's not going to coddle you.
No,
like,
zero coddling.
Yeah.
Like actually zero, which is good, but it doesn't feel great. Especially when I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Like, there's a lot going on in my family life as well. My brother had just gotten diagnosed with Crohn's, so it was like a very stressful time kind of in our life. And she's like, I can't worry about you right now. I have other things to worry about. So I'm like in the guidance counselor's office and I'm Googling fashion, beauty, philanthropy, wellness, those 4 words just on their own. And the first thing that comes up is a paid ad from the Aveda Institute in Denver, Colorado, which was kind of far from where I lived at the time. And I was like, what is this? Okay. And it said like fashion and wellness school, like something like that. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. And so I clicked on it and it was a beauty school. But I had seen through the website that they sent a lot of their graduates to New York Fashion Week. They sent a lot of their graduates to New York Fashion Week. They did a lot of hair and makeup shows on their own. But then 3 or 4 times a year, they had really big give back opportunities. Charity Water for Earth Month, Clean Water Resources, breast cancer awareness, childhood cancer, St. Baldrick's, all of these. I'm trying to think of other ones off the top of my head, but many times a year where big efforts were around raising money and caring for people. A lot of like shelter work, a lot of like kids in, crazy situation, home, like a lot of that stuff. And I put in my information and I'm like, okay, well, maybe this will be something. I didn't even understand really what beauty school was because it really was never an option. Let me also add that my mom did not let me wear makeup in high school, like at all. No makeup, no hair coloring, no nails. Like I was as glam as I could be as a natural girl.
Yeah.
So that world was still so foreign to me. But as soon as I graduated high school, she really like loosened the reins and she really let me express myself through makeup and through, I was like, I cut my hair and I thought it was like so cool. But she had never let me do that. I had long brown hair and no makeup all through high school. And so then this chick starts calling me asking, hey, I see you're interested. And I'm ignoring because I'm like so overwhelmed. And then a couple days go by and I answer the phone on accident. I thought that she was someone else because I'm like, well, maybe I'll go back to California. Like I'll figure it out, whatever. And she calls and she says, she's like, I'm from the Aveda Institute. Like, I'm trying to get a hold of you. Like, you put in your information here. Like, let me help you. And I'm like, oh, I'm not interested anymore. Like, never mind. And she's like, are you sure? Because you seem like you're interested. I think I'd done it actually a couple times. Interested, not, how leads are. Okay?
Yeah.
And she's like, what's it going to hurt for you just to come visit me one time? Like, just come here just one time. And it will be like, no pressure, come just see. And I'm like, okay. I had never been to Denver really, not like for leisure. And so I told my mom, like, I'm going to go for this tour. I'm going to like really take it seriously. And I go and the girl, her name was Lily Swanson. I'll never forget her. She was just like the freaking best. Yeah. And I feel like really sad because she ended up, I don't know if I want to include this, but she ended up getting really addicted to all sorts of narcotics. And the last I heard was she was like living on the streets, and it was like really so unfortunate. I never got to thank her, and it makes me so sad because by the time I met with her and started school, she had already gotten let go and had already kind of taken to other activities. Because it was a couple weeks in between. I met with her, I chatted with her, I bawled my eyes out, hysterically sobbed during my tour because I was like, oh my gosh, like this is exactly what I was looking for.
Because you wanted it. Okay,
yes,
yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even realize places like this existed. Like this is the first time I had ever seen a big city like this. I was 17. I had only lived in these like so sheltered areas.
And I was like, oh my gosh, these people have pink hair and there's like chainmail and everything is like so cool. And I enrolled that day, bawled my eyes out, and I was like, great, this is perfect. Moved everything, and a couple weeks later, and then started beauty school. And then I lived in Denver for a while, and then worked in Denver for a while. Got transferred from Denver to Provo, lived in Provo, Utah for a while, and then got transferred from Provo, Utah.
Through the school?
Through the school. So I worked at the school. So after I graduated...
How long is school like that? How long are you a student at Aveda?
It was 6.5 months.
But then you also got a job there.
Afterwards, yes, I did. Kind of an accident. I didn't want to. It just kind of happened. I went for makeup and skincare. That's all I cared about. It was so fun. It was great. And then I graduated, and my mom was like, you have no money. You have to figure this out. And I was like, I need to get a job that will pay me a lot quickly. I don't know what that looks like, but I need to do that. And I had messaged the girls at the school and was like, would you guys hire? They were hiring for, it was called student support. It was kind of like an on-site counselor, almost like an on-site liaison between students and faculty. And I applied for that, and I was like, I don't even know if I'm qualified for this, but honestly, I need money. I need it right now.
Yeah.
And they said, kind of you're not qualified, but you can work the front desk if you want. And I was like, I don't want, but I will because I need the money and I'll do anything for $1. And so I did that. And I did really well. And that's what started my growth. I worked the front desk. It's actually kind of cool because I have all my name tags saved from aesthetic student all the way to director, all the different.
Was this happening fast too? How long were you there? Were you with them?
That school?
Yeah.
I was at that school for maybe 4 years. And then I was with Provo for 2, and then I was with Vegas for 3. And through that, I have all the different name tags, and it's just cool to look at.
Yeah, you were working up.
Yeah. Front desk. So student, front desk, and then I was the lead in the front desk department. And then I was an admissions call specialist, so I got transferred to the admissions department, cold calling all day. Just
really? You cold call?
Yes, I did.
Oh, I have to talk about that off camera.
All day, and it was not my jam.
Yeah, no, that's different.
I was in a cubicle. I did that for however many long, 6 months or whatever, and then I got transferred to be an actual admissions rep, and that's where I thrived.
That's where you thrived.
I loved admissions more than anything.
So you're onboarding students to the school?
Yes, I am the girl that girl Lily, I get to be her. And it was such a full circle moment getting to watch these kids now cry in my office, get change their life.
Yeah,
I was and Ryan, I was drinking the Kool-Aid. I could not have been Aveda's sweetheart more than I was.
Yeah.
It was all encompassing. And at this time, social media was just kind of becoming what it is now. This was in 2016. Aveda had launched their first ambassador program, and I got volunteered to do it at this time I was also working at a Aveda spa. I was doing makeup on the side. I was working in a spa as a lead, and was working at the school.
Because I was going to ask that the esthetician license came through there, right? Yes. So that was part of your beauty school. Yeah. Okay.
And I did all of that at the same time, and it was exhausting. I did that for 4 years, and it was so crazy. I was just working, but I had no money. That was the thing, is I had to, because I remember I got my very first paycheck, and my rent at the time was this cute little studio apartment. It was $855. And it was rent controlled. I'll also add that, or income controlled.
Yeah.
And my very first check from the institute was for $890, and I crushed the floor and I started sobbing because I was so relieved that I could stay in Denver. I wasn't gonna have to go back home because I was not about to come crawling back again.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
No, I didn't even care.
Been there. You just do whatever it takes. I didn't even
care. No, and so I worked both of those shops. So I was doing skin. I was doing a lot of spray tans. I was doing a lot of brow and lash services, skin services at the spa. I was doing makeup freelance a lot. And then I was also
at the school in admissions, and they were really flexible. Everyone understood that they kind of had to share me. But it kind of goes back to what we were talking about on your episode of, but when you're performing really well, sometimes you have to make exceptions for things because everyone knew that I was like stretched so thin. Everyone knew I was doing my best. I started winning like a lot of awards. It was like a really amazing time for me professionally, and fed this hunger that I didn't even know that I had, that I was like, oh, this is great. So I was doing a lot, and I was a part of Aveda's ambassador team. So I was like doing a lot of education for them, a lot of like content for them. And then a couple years after doing that, I just was getting kind of burnt out, and I was like, I don't really want to work like this anymore. And I don't necessarily need to. And also like, I'm ready for the next step. I'm ready to move on.
And are you in Vegas at this point?
Oh no, I'm still in Denver.
Okay. You're still in Denver.
Yeah.
Okay.
I talked to the guy that owns the schools. He owns a lot of different institutes, and he's like a huge mentor of mine. I like really admire him even to this day. And the opportunity kind of came up to go to Provo, Utah.
Provo, okay.
And I'd never been there before. I didn't know anything about it.
What's that? Is it a big city?
No, and it's south of Salt Lake City. Provo's crazy. It's a different breed.
So it's like a small town in Utah.
It's a college town. It's not a small town. I shouldn't say that, but it's like a college town. It's like there's BYU, UVU, a trillion beauty schools. It's like
Utah is
kids.
The beauty skin hub, right? I've learned that since the Rose, right? Through research, I found out that like I would have not thought that. I would have thought California or New York, but it's Utah.
It's Utah, and I had no idea. And I had the owner sit me down at an Aveda conference. We were all there, and he sat me. I'll never forget this. It's called Aveda Congress. It's just like this huge corporate event that they do every 2 years. It's kind of like their Olympics. And he's texting me, and he's like, I need you to come up to this room and chat with me. And I'm like, okay. And I go up there, and it's me, him, and then every director from every school that he owns at this round table. And I was 20. And I was like, no, I was not. I was like 20. I think I was 21. I think I had just turned 21. And I started working there when I was 17. Like, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's
And
nuts.
I think that people don't, like, forget that sometimes, that I did all this. I started when I was 17. So that's why when I'm like, oh, I've been doing it for X amount of years, they're like when I started when I was a child.
They're trying to do the math.
Yeah. I started when I was really young. And so they were really able to watch me grow up, and like that team was like really phenomenal. But they sit me down and they're like, do you honestly think that you can handle your own department like all by yourself? And I was like, I think I can. Like, if you trust me, like I would like to try. And we found out later that the gal that was in my position previously was just like not great, and was like, there was like money that was like gone, and there was like, it was not a great situation. And so they're like, we need to get you out there ASAP. And within 2 weeks of that round table conversation, I was already living there in Utah, and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know. I was like a fish.
They assist with your moving and stuff there? Or that's not up to you, right? Okay.
Which I'm so grateful for.
Yeah, because that would have been hard.
It was a lot of money, and they paid for everything, and they were really helpful. The director of the Provo school was very helpful, helping me find an apartment. There was another girl that worked there that was really helpful with me as well. Her name is Kennedy. I'm obsessed with her. If she ever hears this, she's like so impactful. She is like, I'm so grateful for her. She works for Rare Beauty now at Sephora, and she's just like the best. She doesn't work for Rare, but she works for like the celebrity brand teams at Sephora. She's like the freaking coolest person I know. And where I feel really grateful in my journey as well is I've had a lot of really incredible mentors, and I would not be anywhere without them.
Yeah.
I could rattle off at least 10 that I am forever grateful that they recommended me or thought of me or pushed me. Like all of what I've ever had has been through them, and she's kind of one of them as well. But I go to Provo, and it was like a totally different world. But I remember the directors saying, well, she looks like them. Like she'll do a really good job. Like she looks like them. She's young. It'll be great. And at the time I was the only one else in admissions that wasn't married and didn't have any kids. So it was like it was easier for me to go. And I went, and it was totally out of my comfort zone. And I didn't know anything about Utah. I didn't know anything about the culture. I didn't know anything about being in charge of your own department. That was like huge for me. It was the first time I'd had my own department all by myself that reflected 100% off of me.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I'd ever really experienced professional failure almost, because when I first got there, a class was starting like right around that time frame, and we missed the goal by whatever it was. I do know it was 3. I'll never forget. It was 3. I'm like, I don't know. No, I know.
You know.
And the director told me that we had to let some people go because we couldn't afford to keep them because of the numbers being so low. And I was like, that's like heavy. That's like really a lot, and that totally affected everything that I did moving forward. And so I really took it seriously. We had a really great year and a half. And then I met my husband, my now husband. And then COVID happened.
Wait, you met him where? Wait, where are we now?
I was living in Utah.
So you met Justin in Utah?
So I was friends with Jordan, his sister.
Okay.
She was one of my students. So I met Jordan on like my 3rd day of work.
Okay, so they're in Utah at this point.
Just Jordan.
Okay.
His whole family is living in Vegas still. I meet Jordan and we just became friends like right away. And immediately when I met her, I felt like she was like my little sister. Like immediately we just clicked. We started talking about deep stuff like right away. And I'm like obsessed with this girl. I didn't know she had a brother for a while. And then when she had showed me a family photo that she had a brother, I was like, he's so hot.
Yeah.
Like, hook me up. And then we dated kind of casually for like a year. Not even a year, probably like a couple months, like through the summer. And then started dating more seriously kind of at the end of 2019.
Okay.
And then the whole time he's like, you got to move to Vegas. You got to move to Vegas. And I said, absolutely not.
Why is he in Vegas at this? We're just curious.
So he was working and he like just lived there.
Okay, so he moved there for work too.
Well, they always lived there.
Oh, okay.
They're all like from Jordan and Justin were born in California, and then they moved to Vegas when they were really little, and they've just lived there their whole life.
So it's just Jordan over in Utah.
It was just Jordan then moved to Utah. Yep. And he would come up and visit me, but I would never go visit him. I'm like, it's so far and it's Las Vegas. Like, no, thank you. I don't need that. And at this point I had really been a lot more mindful of drinking because where I lived in Utah was a dry county. So it wasn't even really available. And I'm like, Vegas is like Sin City. I'm not going there. Like, that's crazy. And then in, February of 2020, he was like, are you sure? And I'm like, I'm not doing it. He ends up getting a house and like the 2nd week of March. And I'm like, cool, good for you. Like, that's a big house for one person. That sucks for you. Like, I'm not going. And I didn't want to give up that independence. I loved my job. That, to this day, that is my most favorite job I've ever had. Like, that job was everything to me. Talk like losing yourself. I was Allison O'Lean, admissions team lead of Aveda Institute Provo. Like, that was all my social media was about. It's all I thought about. It was my everything. I was like, I'm not giving that up for a boy. Are you out of your mind? And then COVID happened. And I was like, okay, fine. Okay, fine.
That's all it took, huh?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, fine. The world's ending and I'm scared. Well, because I lived in Utah. I was by myself. And Jordan actually had moved in with me. We lived with each other for like 6 months. And she was going to Vegas all the time. And I was like, I'm not going to stay here. I could work remote. I'll just go. Like, fine, you can like have your wish. And also it was kind of scary at that time, right? Like March, April. I was like, I don't really want to be away from him either.
That's when nobody knew what was going on. Yeah, we were all like, freaking.
Totally. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is like a good idea. Maybe it worked out how it was supposed to. And then I moved to Vegas with him. I keep working remote for the Institute in Provo for kind of like the rest of the summer. And then I was like miserable working from home. Miserable. Like, I could not do it. I was brand new. I didn't have any friends. I was working from my like dark house 24/7. It was just horrible. And then I was like, I need to do something in person. So then I reached out to the Institute in Vegas, got hired right away. I learned a lot at that school, specifically in Vegas. I learned way more about business and like the back end of the industries more than anything.
Is that because of the position they put you in?
Yeah, they kind of right away, since I had so much previous Aveda like school experience, and I came from huge Aveda schools, like ginormous, like so many moving pieces, 300-400 students, like a lot going on. The school in Vegas was big as well, but it was just one. It was just owned by one family, and they only had the one. They didn't care to own the other versus the others. I think the owner of the other schools, Inspire Greatness, I think he owns like 6 or 7 schools right now. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And they kind of right away put me in operations and was able to pick up on a lot of that really quickly. I didn't have a great experience there, unfortunately. There were a couple girls I worked with that were angels, and I am grateful for them. But I knew almost immediately, and it made me so sad, but I was like, this chapter is ending. Like, I can no longer be like Aveda's sweetheart. I can no longer be this version of myself. I'm with this man now. I don't care about working the same way I used to. I do want to prioritize my family. I do want to make that shift. And that was really, really, really hard for me.
So I don't know if we can go into it, but I'm just curious. Curiosity, right? I noticed that. All right. So you went from high to a not a good experience.
Yeah.
What, if you want, what's the experience going on at this particular school? Is it just the way you're treated? Is it the management or something like that? That just...
So,
because that's a lot of passion to kind of kill.
Devastating. No, it was devastating because I loved it so much. I got the logo tattooed on the side of my head. Like, obviously,
Wait, you have the Aveda logo on your tattooed on your head? Yeah. Oh wow!
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Serious.
Well, on a side note, we'll expect the rose icon and a Petal Talk flower.
Seriously, you can.
But yeah, so what is it? Just
it was the guy that owns the school is great. I think he's a great guy. He just has, I don't know if it's so the same way, but his director was really hard on me, and like not hard and just like a
caring way.
No, like made fun of like the way my hair looked, what I was wearing, made comments about my wedding ring, met Justin many, many times, would call him Jason, like was really mean and nasty as well to like other people that worked there as well. And like nasty, seriously. And I was like, this is so not fair.
Yeah.
I have so much to offer. I have so much experience. I'm so excited to be here. Just give me a chance. And at this time as well, I was teaching for Aveda on a corporate level. I was a part of their North American artistic team. So I was traveling all across North America, teaching classes. And then at my day job, not like the gum under your shoe. Like, and I'm like, how can on my weekends I'm so praised and like everyone like understands like how cool this is, and I'm writing curriculum for other schools and it's like so cool. But then on my day job, I don't even get spoken to. She can't even look me in the eyes. Like, it's just so nasty. It was really unfortunate. And I felt really bad for Justin because it was the first time that I was like not okay. And I was like, I was crying all the time. I was gaining weight. I was like, this is horrible. Like, I'm so sad. I'm so like depressed. I'm so anxious. This is so not good for me. And I stuck it out because it was like so abusive. I would get a little bit and then I would go back 10 miles. I would get 1 foot forward. It was horrible. And finally, Justin was like, you have got to stop this because I can't do this with you anymore. Like, I love you so much and this is so not fair. You have no spark back. You have no personality. Like, obviously he didn't say it to me like that, but he's like, this is not good for you. And I was like, you're probably right. But what am I going to do? Like, I have
this is your identity.
Nothing else if it's not for this. Like, what are you like, not like, what are you talking about? Like, this is so crazy. And I hadn't done skin at this point either in a while. It had been probably like 6 years. It had been like a long time. I was still practicing and working when I was teaching classes and stuff, but I wasn't like in the treatment room all day, every day. I was teaching, but it was different. And he was like, well, you got to figure it out. And so at one of the career fairs earlier that year, I had met this girl who worked at a permanent makeup academy. And her and I just became friends. We were like friends on Instagram, and she posted like beautiful, stunning little fine line tattoos. And I would be like, oh my gosh, like I should get like a little tiny little tattoo from her. Like how cute. But I never did. And I never thought more than twice about that. That happened in September. I met her. And then it just got really, really bad. I had just got married, and they were really mean and nasty to me after I got married. And I don't remember actually. I think she DM'd me on Instagram and was like, I really enjoyed chatting with you and meeting with you. If you ever want a job, like seriously, let me know because I have one for you. And I was like, that's weird. Like what? Like I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
So I'm actually kind of looking.
Yeah.
And she's like, let me connect you with this girl named Brittany Wagner. And I was like, okay. So she connects me with this girl named Britt at Ink by Britt on Instagram. Also a huge mentor. I love her so much. I'm so grateful for her. And I played a little hard to get with her. I was like, I'm just kind of looking. I don't really know. And she's like, well, this is what I need. And she listed off all these things. Is this something you're interested in? Do you think you could do it? And I was like, I really have to think about it. I don't know because I don't know if I can leave. And she knows this now. We've talked about it now. But at the time, I was like, I'm wasting this girl's time. Like, I'll never do this. I'll never actually leave. Like, I'm going to die at this school. And Justin was like, you really need to take this seriously and like really talk to her. And so we met over the phone a couple times, and then I think like 3 or 4 times. And then she's like, let's chat in person. And I was like, okay. Justin took me there because I was like, I don't want to go. Like, I'm wasting her time. She really needs someone. She seems so nice. I actually kind of knew some of her friends through my in-laws. We kind of knew each other.
Yeah.
And we sit down and I see the shop and I'm like, I'm going to do this. Oh my gosh. Like, I'm freaking out. And so I tell her this was like around Christmas time. I'm like, I'm committed to this stuff in January with Aveda. I'm not going to leave them dry, but when I come back, you will hear from me and we will figure it out. And I did. And as soon as I came back from a trip, I was like, okay, like, when do you want me to start? I started like right away. And I had never been in the industry, permanent makeup, tattooing, piercing. Like, that was so out of my element, but it was so much fun. I learned so much about entrepreneurship, being kind to your teammates, being a leader, like finances. She's an excellent like bookkeeper. I understood like business differently because she was the only person I worked for that wasn't a corporation. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is way more my jam. She cared about me and about my family and about my marriage and would go to dinner with me and Justin and her husband. And I knew her kids really well. I would pick them up from school and take them to school. Like, it couldn't have been a better experience for me to switch from that to that.
It didn't make it that hard at all.
No. If anything, I was like, oh, I should have done this 2 years ago. Like, this is crazy. And then I was just like bliss. It was just the best. I like love her so much. We still talk all the time, and sometimes I don't do it so much anymore, but I would still help her sometimes with her social media stuff. And I'm just so grateful for her. And then my husband, got transferred here in the fall of last year.
How long were you in Vegas?
The beginning of 2020 until the end of 2020.
Did you like Vegas?
No,
like,
I hated it.
Did you?
Because at this time too, especially as I've gotten older, and this can be even maybe a different episode with you and me, but I really do take my sobriety seriously. Yeah. And not sobriety in the sense of I'm 10 days sober, I'm 3 months sober, I'm 2 years sober, and I just don't drink today. I'm just not going to drink today. Like, I'm just not going to drink. I just don't. Or any substance for that matter. Like, I'm just not going to, today. Maybe I will tomorrow, but that will be tomorrow's decision. Today, that's my decision today. And in Vegas, that's all you do.
Very hard, yeah.
And all my friends were like dancers, or I had like some friends that were like in the adult entertainment industry, and it's like, I can't do this with you because I just can't, and I don't want to be around it. And I love you so dearly as a person and as my friend, but like, I have to have a life outside of going out all the time because I just can't do it. So I got really into, when I started working for Britt, I got my whole personality back. But I got really into cooking. I got really into baking. That's really when I started becoming like a good wife too, because I was like, this is what matters. My personal life, my husband does matter. My home life does matter. I don't have to be chained to this corporate world for my whole life. And I have nothing but, for the most part, like truly positive, amazing things to say about Aveda and my experience, because I do think I had a great experience for the most part. But the one thing that always fell short was the support on family. And like when I got engaged, when I got married, it was like, oh, we lost another good one. The comments I would get, like, great, here we go. And I'm like, this is so exciting. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, you should want me to be happy in my personal life. But it's so funny because when I was at my absolute worst in my personal life, I could not have been doing better. I could not have gotten more praise. I couldn't have been skinnier. I couldn't have been more depressed. And they loved that version of me.
Isn't that wild?
And then I was this chubbier, happier, married version of me. And it was like, oh, we don't want her. We're mean to her. And that was so hard for me because I would look at my time in Utah before I met Justin, some of the lowest points of my whole life, and I could not have been doing better. I was winning awards. I was winning all of these things. It was so successful. The second I found some happiness in my personal life, oh, we don't want her. Oh, you need to get your head in the game. Oh, you need to take this more seriously. And I'm like, what?
You know, like 100%. That's wild because it makes me think of like our journey.
Yeah.
And when I was not at my best mentally and just my own self awareness, I had the most people around me.
Yeah.
The most like support, but not the right support, right? It wasn't the right support that I needed. And I think Jenna, even the same way, like we were always surrounded by so many people. And then once we decided to like pursue our happiness, we got our stuff together. We stopped drinking, which I know we didn't get into a lot of, you know, your journey there when you mentioned sobriety or even mine, but like we obviously went through that.
Right.
But now that it's like, we've got our stuff together. We're not drinking. We're not partying. You know, we're focused on business. Yeah. We're trying to treat each other. Yeah. Good people, good leaders. Right. There's nobody around.
No one. No.
And that's wild to think about.
Yeah. And that was
so hard for me
because, and even something as silly as like the engagement I would get on Instagram when I was posting photos, like with barely any clothes at concerts, like drinking, comments, oh my gosh, like we love you. Like, but like da-da-da, like you're the best, whatever, like all this friends and love. But then I post photos of like me and my husband and it's like crickets. And I'm like, why do you glamorize this version of me and then make me feel some type of way that I'm no longer that version? I'm never going to be 21 and single again.
Yeah.
I'm an adult now. I'm like so different now, and that's okay. This is a way better version of me. Yeah. Like way better.
Do you still struggle with it? Or have you like with that you don't get that support? Does it still bother you? Because it is a hard thing. And I would say it took me a long time, and I probably still go through little phases where it's like, dang, you know.
I think the only reason for me that I was able to have such a smooth transition also is because when I started working for Brit, I took 6 months off of social media. And for other reasons that I won't get into, but I just took 6 months or so, maybe like a little bit longer. And I didn't lack that because I was just gone.
You were just done. No social media at all. You were off.
I was off. And it was so good for me as well. And it was so good for me to I was forced quickly to, you know, take that out of my Instagram bio and take that version of me and put it away and then have to sit with it for 6 or so months and be like, so aware of this is a change and it's okay to be sad and you can cry. And on my first day with Brit, I sobbed my eyes out. I couldn't even stop crying because I was so concerned that I maybe didn't make the right decision. And it just was so much better for me, and it was so much better for our family, and it was just so much better for my life. I was like prioritizing health for the first time. I was prioritizing like fitness, and I don't think I struggle with it the same because it was like so cold turkey. But that's kind of how I am. Like, if I'm going to make a change, it seriously has to be cold turkey, which is really hard for some people, but it is the only option I have.
Yeah, it's the only way.
Yeah. Like people in my life, substances in my life,
things in my life, it has to be either it's all or nothing for me. Nothing. And that's hard.
Yeah.
And and then it was over. And I wish I would have worked for her sooner. And everything was good after that.
But it all happens in the right time.
It totally does.
Right. Yeah. So then leaving Vegas wasn't hard for you. You're so when Justin's looking at moving, you're all down for this move, right?
So Justin was looking at moving for probably pretty much since we've gotten married.
Okay.
Since 2022, he'd always kind of been looking, and we talked about a lot of different areas. I didn't really have a preference as long as it was still a city vibe, because I did not want to go back to stick towns like I'd lived in the past. And
you almost went to Alabama, right?
But we didn't, because...
And what part of Alabama was it? Montgomery, right?
It was an hour outside of it. Whew. I think it was... What's the other big city?
Birmingham.
It was in the middle of them both, I believe. Yeah. No, I know.
And you almost went back. You almost went so far in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
That you would have been begging to go back to Minnesota and South Dakota.
Sure. And we went on, and I'm so grateful for the people that hosted us, because we went on a lot of those visits.
Yeah.
South Carolina, where was that? Alabama?
Yeah.
Alabama. Georgia, Texas, Arizona, Wisconsin, a place in Minnesota.
So you guys really had a lot of options.
We had a lot of options over the span of probably a year and a half. And it really was just finding the right one. It ultimately kind of ended up being between a dealership in Dallas and then a dealership in... I think it was in Dallas, somewhere in Texas, and then here.
Why here? What made that?
Justin always wanted to live in Florida.
Florida.
He's always wanted to live in Florida. He always wanted to live in Tampa. That's kind of where he saw us, and he's been telling me he wanted to move us to Florida since we started dating. And I was like, no, I'm not interested in that. I don't want to live in Florida. It's so far. And we weren't married at the time either. So I'm like, I'm not going to be dating you and move all the way to Florida. That's kind of crazy. During COVID, not really what I wanted to do. And then I really wanted to move to Texas, and he really wanted to move to Florida. And I knew I would be okay in either place because of my job and my industry. And I was like, you can pick whatever you feel is a better decision for us as a family and for you, because at this point I wasn't going to be working. You can pick. And he was like, I think Florida is going to be a good option for us. And I was like, okay, if that's what you think. I didn't know anything about Florida. I'd never even been here.
Yeah.
And I'd only been in Texas a couple times for work. And he, same, fast, went out, said yes, moved here all within 3 weeks. We actually spent our 1-year wedding anniversary having a garage sale, getting rid of all of our stuff so we could leave in a week.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It happened really, really fast.
Yeah.
And then we're here, and then now I work for you.
Yeah. Work with us.
Yeah, right.
Work with us. You don't work for us. You work with us. Come on.
Also for you.
What a journey.
I know. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So we'll get into, I like what you do at all of the podcasts. You make everybody give a little bit of advice. A few things. One is you started very young.
So young.
But you also really found a good path very quickly, right? And then even now, we saw that when we reached out to you. I saw, and we definitely see it now because you see, but strong leadership and drive, which is very hard nowadays to find people with ambition and stuff. So I feel like maybe the young girl or boy, but the young one out there, right, that may be feeling that pressure from parents of you need to do this, you need to find out right now, but you have this young 17, 18-year-old girl out there, or even just any age, right, but they still don't know their path, they don't know what they want to do, or they do know what they want to do and they don't know how to step it. What's your advice through your experience to that person?
That's a really good question. I feel like if you don't know, if you have something that is keeps coming up, fashion for me, that's where it started. And I still love fashion. I don't do it like that, but it still is a part of my life. Allow that thing to spark something in you, because maybe it's not that exact thing, but it is something in that world, right?
For me, it was not fashion, it was beauty, which are sister options. But I think my biggest advice is to allow yourself the time to explore those things. And if that means, let's say you love like pottery. If that means sucking it up during the week because you have like some horrible desk job and it pays for your life, but then you get to take like 2 pottery classes on the weekends or like at night and you can afford it, and you're able to cultivate you wanting to sell your own pottery or whatever it is, allow yourself the time to grow that and like have fun with it and take your time to determine what fits for you. And my mom, my whole life has called me a dabbler because I have done like almost every sport. I've done almost every, I dance, cheer, baseball, soccer. I've done everything because I could never find like what fit and what felt right. And then I grew up and I realized, because those things aren't what I'm interested in. I want like beauty and girly and whatever. I didn't want sports. And the same with like anyone else who's like nervous or uncomfortable or like feeling like they don't know. Whatever that thing that keeps coming back to you though, that is it. And it doesn't have to be that exact same thing. If you love like computers, maybe you don't want to be like an engineer, but maybe you want to get into like coding, or maybe you love like design, and maybe you thought also maybe fashion, but maybe it's actually like architecture, something totally different. Like you do have a lot of options in every industry. The umbrella is quite large. And I think especially in today's age, you can make a business pretty much out of anything.
Yeah.
And just like allow yourself the time to foster it. Justin and I always talk about how obviously for me it worked out and everything is fine and I'm fine with where I'm at. But I would have loved to have taken like 6 months and like tried other things too.
Yeah.
And just like have enjoyed like that time, but I didn't. And that's okay. And that's what it is. But I felt so rushed to make a decision so quickly that I was like, beauty school is cheap and fast, honestly. And that's why I went. It worked out for me.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Maybe it doesn't. And like, that's okay. But, I know I won't speak for Justin necessarily, but like he would have loved to have had a little bit more time before he got into sales,
Yeah.
And like allowing yourself the time when you're so young, because it only gets harder when you get older.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's better to be poor when you're younger, when you don't have to pay for your own insurance or your own like phone bill, maybe. Like it's easier to do that and make those decisions when you're younger than when you're older and you actually don't have that time.
Yeah.
So I think that's my advice. Just like enjoy it.
Yeah. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Well, now we know a little bit about you and your journey.
I know. So cool.
And now what's next?
Oh my gosh.
What's next for Allison? What's your, what's next?
Oh
What's next? You have a lot going on. You came here. You're in Florida now.
Were you the one that saw my resume first? Was that you or was that Jenna?
Me.
Did you email me first or was it Jenna?
No, she emailed.
Oh.
I got the resume and sent it to her and said, hey.
You said you should reach out to this girl.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. You applied as an esthetician.
I did.
Yeah.
Well, because like how bold of me to be like, can I work in like leadership?
We didn't have, it's, and we'll share this on the podcast, but I mean, obviously we know this, but we didn't have a leadership position.
Right.
We knew that we needed somebody, but we weren't sure, like, are we ready for like a spa manager? But it was very, very, very interesting because we had a front desk person and then it was just Jenna and I, and we were trying to figure out how to bridge that gap. Right. And so we almost hired a consultant, but then that was very hard for me because not that I can't always, I love and believe in constantly educate myself. But it was very hard for me to hire somebody to come in to tell us what I already knew we needed. I already knew what we needed to fix. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I can't do that because we already know. And I was like, we need a right hand. We need a spa manager, right? And now that we had to terminate our front desk person, it left that gap where I was like, maybe the opportunity is we can fill them in because in order to manage, you have to understand all aspects, including front desk, right? So why don't we just bring somebody in, find a spa manager? And we weren't really ready for that. But I swear to you that we had that conversation that week.
That's so crazy.
That week on the couch, I can see it. I remember everything. And I think it was like, I don't know how many days. It was all within the same week of each other. But I saw your resume come over for.
And I sent it a weird spot. I sent it,
and we weren't getting resumes
on the website.
Yeah, because we weren't advertising any jobs. So like right now, if we have an esthetician posting, right, we get a ton of applications. Right. So we weren't posting anything actively to get applications. So obviously, you know, when I saw it come through, I was like, I looked at it and then I saw your resume and I was like, we just said we need a spa manager. This might be the girl.
Yeah.
This might be the girl for it. And and then I sent it to Jenna, and that was all she wrote. I'm very glad we found you, and I know Jenna is too. Like you have no idea, and you've impacted our lives so much and our businesses. You've showed us what it's like to have a good team player and good leader. And you even helped me make a decision to fire half of my staff at the other at the other company because I saw what it's, you know what I mean? You impacted me on that because I saw like, okay, this is what having a strong person working with you looks like. And didn't mean to call you out like that.
I didn't tell you to do that.
But it did. It's the reality, right? And I've already shared this in other podcasts. So you can get that whole story on another podcast where I gave the exact reason. Right. But no, we're very grateful for you, very thankful for you. You cannot leave. I swear to God.
Yeah, so next steps.
Our biggest anxiety that Jenna and I probably face is Justin deciding to leave. So Justin, bro, listen. Please, man, don't do it right now. Don't do it right now.
Imagine.
It can happen. Do
you guys talk about that a lot?
Who?
You and Jenna?
Yeah, we worry. But the good news is if Justin loves Tampa, we love Tampa, and it's no doubt, and I've said this since the day we met you, our goal is to be over there. Not to leave here. Right. That's just like the next step in our journey. I feel is for us is I don't want to live there full time, but I want a place there. Yeah. I want an operation there, and we want a spa there. So if anything, that could possibly be the next proof that we would approve from. The next move that we would approve from is if you guys wanted to bounce over to Tampa and open up the Rose location.
I don't know anything about Tampa, so I don't
Tampa is
that happening.
So awesome. I don't know why I love it so much. I don't know.
Yeah,
I really don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's probably not that great of a place, right? I mean, it's like, it's a city. I just love that side because it has
the water or whatever.
The pockets that I really love.
Yeah.
You can be in beach, nature, big city, or very small town, all in the same hub. It's all like right there. That whole area has a little bit of everything where it's just very unique. Mm-hmm. You know, not far you can be in the middle of nowhere and have hiking trails. Yeah. Or right here you can have the prettiest beaches that there is in the U.S. Like legit, you have the Gulf of Mexico. If you want the big city vibe, you have it. There's always something going on. There's festivals, there's concerts, there's all of that. And then there's little small communities that's similar to Lake Mary. You know, you get that in St. Pete where it's like, it's just a small town, you know, but not too small.
Yeah.
All your stuff is there. And then it's not far from Orlando, you know, so you can still hop over to Orlando. But it's a great area. Yeah. It's a great area and it's growing really fast. And they're kind of ahead of the curve. They're like
it's that West Coast.
They're kind of like the like the LA impact of California, right?
Because the West Coast is the best coast.
It is. I'm a West Coast, you know, always. I've always loved the West Coast better. But anyway, so we appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you.
And thanks again,
seeing my email.
Appreciate this podcast is fun. Thanks for letting me take it over and host it. Everybody watching doesn't have to worry. You don't have to look at me every time.
Oh my gosh.
But it was fun doing this, and hopefully everybody learns a little bit about you. So make sure that what do they got to do? What do they got to do if they want to get the next episode where you're hosting?
If you want to see the next episode without Ryan, you have to subscribe to the Petal Talk podcast channel. Also, you probably should follow our Instagram as well because we make really funny reels. You can follow myself. We can put all of those links.
We'll put all the tags in the bottom, but they can follow you.
And just keep coming back every week.
Yeah, so awesome. Fun. Well, thanks for sharing your journey from South Dakota to Florida with us and your journey.
I've lived all over.
It's inspiring. So good job, Allison.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right. Till next time.